Good day, everybody. I am bringing you a layout today that are pictures of my grandson's very first Easter, where he kind of recognized how fun an Easter basket was. And I pulled there, the first piece of paper I pulled is a beautiful basic gray paper called Snapdragon Shop from Fresh Cut. And then the second thing I did is originally I had an idea that I was going to place those photos horizontally in a strip together, but because they're a different orientation, that wasn't working for me. So what I ended up doing was then pulling that aqua colored paper from Fresh Cut again, and that's called Lilac Meadow. And then I played with a few little backgrounds because I wanted a border on this so that your eye didn't just fall off the page with the beautiful watercolor background. That pink paper is also from Fresh Cut, and it's called Orchid Alley. Now, just in case you don't know, Basic Gray has said that they will no longer be producing scrapbook supplies. So their last shipment will be everything from this last release from CHA, which is kind of sad. And this Fresh Cut collection was probably my very favorite Basic Gray collection. I like bright colors like that, and I wear them often. So I did decide with this particular paper to gut the background because I do still have quite a few different pieces of paper from this collection left, and I love that hot pink, so I wanted to definitely be able to use that again. So I have that all done, and now I'm just kind of trying to figure out exactly what I'm going to do and how I'm going to work this. Like I said, I was going to go with something that would be more typical of my style, which was a horizontal piece of paper and then other papers around it. But as the different orientations kind of dictated a different option there. So what I'm doing now, just to help the papers and embellishments stand up off that busy background, I'm inking the edges of all of these, and I'm going to ink it with Jenny Bolin ink, and the name of that one is Fountain Pen. It's just a black ink basically. She also no longer produces ink, so I guess this is a layout of older products by somebody that's not going to produce products anymore. I think the Fresh Cut collection was from about 2013, if I remember looking when I looked up some of the paper names, which makes it a pretty old supply to be still sitting in my scrapbook room. So I'm glad that I was able to get these papers, some of my favorite papers, onto a layout. So, it'd be nice if I could decide to ink edges before I actually got papers down, but of course that doesn't usually happen with me. And now what I'm trying to do is I'm being very careful about where I place those photos because I want them to land sort of in the color there where the color of the background is associated. So the bottom photo is on kind of an aqua color and the top photo is up in the greens, which it's not exactly green, but it's close. I just pulled a sticker from the Fresh Cut sticker sheet off of that sticker sheet, and it says happiness. And now what I'm doing is I'm going back to my packages of die cuts. I store those in basically Cropper Hopper photo sleeves, the little things that you can actually store your photos in. And what I'm doing now is I'm working with a lot of fabric die cuts. There are paper die cuts in here as well, but quite a few of these are fabric. And that's what I've chosen. The one I just put on there, that oval, is not. And all of those die cuts are from the Sweet Threads die cut pack. The die cut shapes is what they're called. So I'm just pulling some different colors out there. And this is one of those things that as I was doing it, I thought, oh my gosh, this is just going to be hideous. But the more I put on here, the better it worked. And I just found that cute little oval embellishment that I put in that bottom, what will be the bottom left cluster, and it almost looks like an egg. So I just thought that was really super cute and really super sweet. And now that I'm looking at this, I'm kind of going back and forth. And I'm playing, I want the die cuts to sort of work together and to do a little bit of framing on that pack. And now I am looking through the Hey Girl die cut shapes, And that's where I pulled that little plaid, what was a speech bubble, but I'm going to hide that. And then what almost looks like a recipe card. I know I need a spot to journal on, so that's why I pulled the recipe card, but it's funny, I'm not going to end up journaling on that spot. And right now I'm thinking there are only going to be 3 clusters in this layout, but as I look at it, when I eventually decide where I'm going to journal, I realize I need a 4th cluster, so I will get there eventually. And again, I'm just looking through different things. I used that acrylic frame up there. That again is also from the Hey Girl die cut shapes. And I found some of these acrylic flowers. And there I've decided I really need another cluster up in that top shape. I need a place to put a title because I don't think my title is going to fit in that bottom left cluster. And now I'm thinking, okay, I like how these are looking, so let's start committing to some spots for all of these pieces here. Because there's so much to put down on that layout. I loved how the colors in that Sweet Threads circle, and that is a paper die cut there, sort of echo the roundness, I guess, of some of the watercolor background. And that's really cute. That little die cut there is fabric, but it's an oval, and it almost looked like an Easter egg to me. So I thought, well, that's sort of perfect for a layout about an Easter basket. So that is going to go down on the layout. And I pulled my Scotch foam tape, my 1/2-inch foam tape that comes in the big, huge circle that you can get on Amazon. But I've used probably at least half of mine. I've had mine for, I think, at least well over a year, and it might be 2 years. And I do use quite a bit of that foam tape on my layouts. So now again, I'm going to commit to what that bottom right cluster looks like there. So I want to start inking those edges. And you know, the fabric doesn't take the ink completely well, and it is a little bit harder to glue down with the ATG tape, but it actually works pretty well. So that background is going on, and I'm just playing a little bit with the arrangement of things. It's one of those things that if these were all paper, I would probably, and I had inked them first, I would probably be just holding everything down with my palm and gluing as I go, because I find it hard sometimes to get things back in the place it was, which we all struggle with, I'm sure. And I'm going to ink the edges of that sticker. But what I'm going to do there is I'm going to pop that up on foam tape as well, because, or actually I don't pop that up on foam tape, sorry. There's another thing I use for dimension there. What I end up doing is I end up having to pop the picture up on foam tape with this one, just because it's sitting on so many different layers on the right, it looked a little bit funny. It wasn't sitting very well doing that. So that's where I got the dimension in that cluster. And now I'm also going to do the same thing with this photo. I'm going to pop that up on some foam tape because of all the layers to the right there. Especially because some of those layers are fabric, they won't sit flat. So that's why that's important. And I'm having a hard time here getting things back the way they were. That transparency frame is moving a little bit on me. And you can see that there was a flower on that oval there, but I'm going to cover it, so it really doesn't matter that that was there. And again, I love the little polka dots on that flower, because it just echoes that one really pretty much perfectly echoes the color in the watercolor background. This layout is different for me in that I don't normally scrapbook in quadrants like this, especially quadrants that are more free looking. I'll scrapbook in square or rectangular quadrants that are very lined up. But this is different for me, and I love, love, love how this turned out. Especially I think because it sort of echoes the freeness of the background on this paper. If it had been more of a squared off grid, it just wouldn't work, I think, as well. So working on getting those things repositioned there in that cluster. Getting that down. And I'm looking at a little transparency flower for that cluster. Not all the clusters will have transparencies in them. 3 out of the 4 will. But then not all the clusters have a sticker in either. So, but you know, I kept sort of the feel of the dimension, especially because I have fabric and paper die cuts in all of the clusters. And what I did to get that flower down is I just took a glue dot about the size of the center of the flower and put that on the back. Now, as I'm working with the cluster I'm going to work on now, originally my idea was to put it at the top there, but I felt like it had way too much space in it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move that down. And it very slightly overlaps with the bracket part of that journaling spot there. It very slightly overlaps the edge of the paper. And I like that because everything else is sort of sitting on the paper, but that one comes off a little bit. And again, I used a glue dot there in the middle of that flower just to get that down. And I'm recognizing here that I need another piece at least in this cluster, in the cluster at the top. But I'm looking for that, and then also as I'm doing that, I'm going through things and thinking about adding other pieces as well. One of the things that you're not going to see on this that you're going to need to look for on the stills, and there I just found another acrylic transparency there. It says "For You," which I thought was cute with the whole theme of the Easter basket. That one was an acrylic piece that came from the Basic Ray Factor Fiction die cut cardstock and transparency collections. And I think I bought that one and the Hey Girl at Joann's a few years ago. So that's going to go in there now. As I was saying, there is one thing that you're not going to see me add here that you'll need to look for in the stills. I added some chipboard pieces at the end, one in each cluster, and those came from the Basic Gray Sweet Threads chipboard stickers. So there's a sheet of chipboard or a couple of sheet of chipboard stickers that go with that as well. I'm showing you my letter stickers there because I'm trying to find some letter stickers to go on for the title. And I'm not going to find them, but I store those in baskets that's a basket from World Market. I store my thickers that way too, although I store the thickers vertically so they're upright so I can thumb through them a little bit easier because I use them all the time. What I did with those, I just took the lid off. I need to do a scrap room tour for you at some point. I will. I have so much going on in the next couple of weeks that it won't be right away. So what I eventually settle on for the title is the Jelly Bean Soup Alpha Beans in Blueberry Teal. This is an older letter sticker, but I have a couple of them left. And this is the larger of the two fonts. There's also a sheet of smaller fonts in this teal color as well. Just so that you know, if you happen to come across them, what I used here. And I was going to spell out Easter 2015 for my title, and then I discovered I didn't have any 5s left, which is really funny because it's not like I use 5s all the time. But I may have used them up in my December daily because this would match my December daily colors. So the title is going to end up being Easter Fun. And that fits perfectly. And just in case you were looking, I'm using the wax paper technique to get my title down. just because then I can move it around more easily. This landed perfectly the first time, and there is a little grid in the background of that journaling spot that I'm not going to use for journaling. But so that's making my job a little bit easier getting this title aligned here. I'm using my cutter bee. Oh, and there's my head and my messy hair. My cutter bee tweezers there to get those letters down a little bit easier. I'm going to use them as well, and then I'll put those letters on the recipe card in the bottom cluster there, because I was originally going to use that for journaling and realized my journaling wouldn't fit. So now I'm going to end up journaling on that die cut, and you can read it just fine in person. And then I'll put my grandson's initials on the recipe card because there's too much space left on that recipe card. I did do this layout for Load, which is layout a day. And what it is it's a challenge to do a layout a day during the month of February. You actually pay for it, and you get prompts every day. There's always a theme. This theme today was a landmark, because the theme of this month's Load is around the world. So we're looking at landmarks. But landmarks can be not just places, but also events. So the landmark here was that it was the first time my grandson really understood the whole concept behind the Easter basket and really enjoyed it. One of his favorite presents there was a fishing pole. His grandpa does a lot of fishing, so he is now going to be able to fish with him. Actually, he has fished with him because he has his own pole. So I'm just getting that acrylic flower down there because that's where I'm going to journal, and I recognize that I need to do that. Again, I really love how this layout came out. It's a little bit different for me, so that's just kind of a fun new thing. And I also love the fact that I got to use up some of my old basic gray stash here. I do have a still shot of the larger layout, and then I have some detail shots of the layout itself coming up. As I said, hope you are all enjoying your day, and I will see you soon with some more videos coming up. Goodbye.